I wanted to just share a little bit about me being here in front of you. So I have had a story, I would say for as long as I can remember, that I am not a public speaker. I'm not somebody who speaks in front of people, and for so many years I avoided any possibility of that. And I really wanted you all to have a think about, and it follows on a bit from what Joe was talking about. What are those things that you say about yourself? You know, he said, I'm not a writer. And then he's written books. Like, what stories do we tell ourselves that stop us from doing things? So I'm not a public speaker was something I completely believed for such a long time. And then through this understanding, I guess I've been unpicking all of those ideas I have. I'm not a public speaker, I'm not good enough, I'm too scared to do X, Y, and Z. All those things that we say, all those ideas and stories we have about who we are, even down to, you know, I'm a coach, I'm a mum, we have them, we have all these labels. And if I'd had longer, one of the things I really wanted to do with you all was to stick post-it notes on you, all the things that you think about yourself. I am. And are they true? Are any of them true? And to have that opportunity to stop and question all of that. And I would invite all of you to spend some time, even if it's just in your own mind, exploring what those stories are that are so real to you. Write them down if you can, because that's so powerful. That separation. I'm not good enough. Really? Is that really true? And just to really sit and question all of that, because none of it's true. It's all made up. And when we can really see through that, then this kind of thing happens. What the hell? I'm sitting talking to a lot of people. And I'm scared, and that's okay. But I know it's not me, the idea of I can't speak in front of people. It's not me. That's not who I am. And having explored and questioned those things, then I see the truth that Joe was pointing to of who we all are, that we're all actually what Sid described as mind. That heart beating that we can all feel, that sense of life, that's in every single one of us. That's who we all are. And the freedom of knowing that, and the freedom of knowing that we're not what we think we are, allows anything to happen, even this. So, yeah, that was all I wanted to share. But I would, once Jason's spoken, we would love to hear your experiences, your questions. This is meant to be an interactive session. I'm definitely not an expert, so yeah.
Thanks, Vicki. I was touched listening now, because I was thinking about the stories that I told myself, what I needed to be okay. And I thought this talk is titled Mental Health and Wellbeing, and my journey with the mental health system started at 10 years old. I call it the mental illness system these days, not the mental health system. Because at 10 years old I was medicated for depression, and after that I spent more than 30 years in and out of that system. with 15 different labels and multiple different psychiatric interventions and so on, you know. So I feel kind of qualified to talk about mental health. Mental health is different to mental illness. You know, mental illness was what I was indoctrinated into believing that was wrong with me. And mental health being that part of me that was never touched, you know, that part of me that was always okay, that part of me that allows me to sit here and for my hand to shake and to look at you all in the eyes and not to worry about it. And to share myself without fear of it being some sort of reflection of my masculinity or what it is to be a man in this world, you know. Because I'm not scared of that anymore. I'm not scared of sharing myself with people. I'm scared of saying that I overcome all these things, you know, to find a place of peace within, regardless that the circumstances were stacked against me from a very early age, you know. So yeah, I like to make the distinction between mental health and mental illness, you know. Mental illness is a man-made idea, a pathologization, you know, if that's a word, a pathology of normal human response to adversity. You know, and all of us grew up with some level of adversity, which perhaps still plays out in our lives today, you know, as it does in mine. But that does not eliminate you from finding peace and happiness. It does not stop you. I share a little bit about my own story because it feels like I had a lot, you know, a lot of labels, a lot of adversity, a lot of struggles, and as well as those multiple diagnoses, you know, I lived through active addiction to drugs and alcohol and crime for many years, and then addictions to everything else, you know, for another 20 plus years. Everything that was socially acceptable and I thought was okay as a way of escaping myself, you know. And you know, all that is just a reflection of what I believed, what Vicki talked about so well, you know. It's kind of like the stories I believed about myself. I told myself all these stories, the ones that were given to me, the pathologies, the labels, the diagnoses, the addict story from the 12 steps, all those things, you know. It's like I pinned them onto me like a post-it note, you know, and I woke up every day and I told myself that story of being broken and damaged, and that there was no hope for me, that it was hopeless, that if you really had lived my life and really understood how bad I was and the things I'd done, that this thing that we were talking about here, this well-being, mental health, not mental illness, this thing that we were talking about, if you understood how bad I was, you would know why this doesn't apply to me, you know. And I'm here to say it applies to everyone, regardless, you know. I often feel like silence can say a lot more than I can. What we feel in our body, what we experience in the moment. You know, well-being is about opening the heart, you know, like taking down the wall brick by brick, and starting to feel into what's inside of you, what's inside of all of us, and experience the present moment. And that's what this has given me, you know, it's given me the ability just to be present. To feel my own heart, you know, that I built a huge wall around after a tragic experience. Which took quite, you know, overcoming quite a lot of fear for me, I guess. But it's beautiful to be able to sit here. I feel like I've said enough, and we would love to answer questions. And like I said earlier, if you've got a question, if you could make it as short as possible to give everyone a chance. And there's no pressure, but if you want to ask, feel free. You know.
What was the defining moment for you where then if there was a defining moment for you where the three where you got it, if you know what I mean, about the three principles?
Yeah, thank you. It's quite a common question that I get asked because everybody wants to know that, right? How do I get it? Is your question for yourself or is it about somebody else?
No. I run a facility, mental health facility.
Okay.
I founded one, so
Yeah.
it's interesting for me to hear your answer.
Yeah, thank you. You know, what I didn't share was that in all those years of that mental health stuff, I was also a psychotherapist, you know, in an attempt to find peace within myself. So I'd become a psychotherapist. I had a long list of psychological qualifications and things, and I couldn't help myself, and I didn't feel like I could help anyone else with what they really wanted, which was to find peace and happiness. You know, I describe it like we could both sit in a room in the dark, but nobody knew where the light switch was. That's what my career was like before, you know. Now I know where the light switch is, you know. The defining moment was that, if I could put it into words, was that somebody invited me to just be here. Kind of similar to what I did at the start here, you know, I could just settle down and be here. Because I've been in years and years of these psychological qualifications where the first thing you did was took out a notebook and you just became not present. Just taking notes of everything and learning the framework, the theory, the ideas, the intellectual stuff, you know. And someone said to me, went to a three principles group, and they said to me, could you just be here? I was like, what does that mean? No one's ever invited me to be present, you know, in all these years of training that I've done. And I was like, okay, it just felt so loving in the moment that I was able to put down my notebook and let go of all my ideas about what this was, whether it was like something. And my ego was huge because I had a lot of letters after my name and qualifications, and my thinking was like, well, what does this guy know? You know, it's kind of like, I know everything about change, even though I was still suffering. I was very insecure. So that invitation just allowed me to put down my book and just be here. You know, and I often do that with groups that I train and people and stuff. I said, you know, how do we hear something new? You know, how do we allow something to bypass the filter of our own mind and the stories that Vicki talked about, you know? Because the mind, the intellectual mind, can very quickly dismiss, you know, that's not right, that's not true. If you knew my story, like me, if you knew my story, you know why what you're saying doesn't apply to me. But that invitation just to be present and just to listen, to hear beyond my own mind, just something filtered through, you know. And I had this experience where after 40 years, I was sat outside this Airbnb and I was just looking out over these green fields, and I was just like, wow, you know, I'm calm, I feel peace within. And I couldn't, as Joe had said earlier, my mind couldn't reconcile anything. It was like, I haven't got more money in the bank, I haven't got any girlfriend, I haven't lost any weight. That was what it looked like. Life was about this outside-in experience where if I got more things, I would feel better. But I became very connected to myself, and I thought, there's a real beautiful feeling inside of me, and I don't know what it is, but it feels good. And that was really what I would say was the allowing, the invitation for me to be present, and my ability to just accept that loving moment and just to be with that present moment experience and to hear something new, you know. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I can take the microphone around because
Who else got a question?
What's something they've seen that they would love to share?
Yeah.
Essentially, it's so helpful to hear other people's stories. We think they're nothing to us, but they're everything to other people. So if you have anything to share on, any experiences you've had, we'd love to hear them as well. It doesn't have to be a question.
Go for it.
Yeah. If I can do it, you can do it.
Oh, I can do it. Can I stop?
Well, Jason's the timekeeper, so
Oh, God. Right, okay. Similar to Jason.
microphone.
Speaking to the microphone.
Oh, sorry, yeah, what a good idea. Similar to Jason, I had a problem from probably about 14 upwards. Psychiatric care at 17. Near death at 21, put it that way. So psychiatric care again, 3 months on a psychiatric ward, electric shock treatments, you name it. I've had it, and I've had a lot of psychiatric care over the years. I've just found out recently that they diagnosed me as being schizophrenic. Now, in all those years, I never knew I was schizophrenic. Never been treated for schizophrenia, but that's what they decided was the end game. And then somebody, a nurse, I believe, threw into the mix ADHD. That was 20 years later, 30 years later. Now then, I've given myself another label instead, or at least somebody else did. It's actually autistic spectrum. And I know it's a label, but it's one I actually can relate to. These things that happen to me, or I do, or whatever, is not mental ill health. It's autistic, and it's lovely, and I love it now. And I think, okay, I can't cope in this situation. I can go out of it. Hence sitting by the door, by the way, because I'm quite prepared to have to need that. And whatever happens, just go out. All sorts of things. As for the 3 principles, my sister, because I'd been diagnosed as schizophrenic and I didn't know about it, I'd had to have, we had family treatment. Can you imagine anything worse? And I had to make up an awful lot of bullshit. Unadulterated bullshit, because if I didn't, they would have given me more electric shocks and given me more whatever. And so anyway, one day my sister came to me and said she'd heard about the 3 principles, and she said, you do know it's just your thinking. It's all thought. Now, I know that's meant to be a non-starter. It wasn't. It was the most amazing thing that had ever happened to me. It really was enlightening, because I agreed with it. I so agreed with it, because of all this grief I've been carrying around. The psychiatric care made me worse, not better. I had to carry around all this stuff about how awful I'd been to my family, how I hadn't really, I might have wanted to take myself away from them, but that wasn't, okay, I was a bit of an alcoholic, a bit of a rebel. I used to go off everywhere. But I believed that I was the black sheep, that I was the second born, the rebel by nature as opposed to by design. And it was just my thinking. All of it was just my thinking. There's nothing else can describe it. And that was the biggest insight I ever had, was it was just my thinking.
That was very beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Really, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Because that is just my thinking. Or is on the post-it notes, right? And when we see the post-it notes don't mean anything, they're mental health.
Yes.
There's everything. Thank you.
Was it pleasure? Yeah, no.
Hi, just on a similar story to that, not about me, but one of my sons is dyspraxic, which is another label, of course. And he's amazing and wonderful and lovely, but he goes to a fantastic alternative school, which I think should be how all schools are, because they treat the children as individuals, they treat them according to their own true nature, which is amazing. And one thing I was talking to Ted about recently, having been in this understanding for a while, is a lot of the kids there don't understand the concept of time. And actually, we made up time. And so, as well as it being a thought, which I guess concepts are, we've grown up with concepts from our parents and from society about things like time. And if you're slightly different and you don't want to fit into that, structure of sitting at a desk wearing a tie to school, you're labelled as someone who is different and needs to go somewhere else and doesn't fit in. Whereas actually I believe that those kids, and probably you, and probably all of us, they're just acting according to their own nature. And we're putting in a concept and saying, you need to fit in with this concept that we've made up, entirely made up. So I think that's really interesting, and very similar to what you were saying.
I'm also dyslexic, so that's all through school, which is a nightmare. Yeah, trying to fit into all these things.
Is there someone with a hand up there? Yeah.
Hi, very inspiring stories. My question is, do you think that mental health, be good or bad, is hereditary? Do you think it's something that we were born with, or do you think it's something that we grow because of our environment shape us?
It's a great question. I would caveat this answer with, don't listen to me, listen to yourself, but I'm going to share what I think. This isn't the right answer or the truth, it's just what I've experienced. I think there's potential for stuff to be passed down, and from generational experience, generational trauma and so on. Mental health, mental illness, as I see it, is a response to adversity, depending on the level of adversity, the level of generational stuff that's passed down, the hereditary stuff that's passed down. What I would also say is none of that exempts us from finding our true nature, or peace of mind, or happiness. There's nothing wrong with mental illness as a label or an understanding of where you are at in the moment. It's kind of like, I'm not making it bad here, I'm not making medication bad, or the system. It's an attempt to bring us back to homeostasis. It's not who we are. That's often the common misunderstanding that's perpetuated through the system and misinformed practitioners. So yeah, there's a chance that some responses to the amount of trauma that's passed down, can play out in people's lives. And yeah, that's what I see. Is there anything you want to add?
I'd just say that I think it's really fascinating, that idea of generational kind of trauma. It seems to me that that's passed through the conditioning, the beliefs that we innocently acquire as children from our parents and what they acquired from their parents. So, you can see how easily that gets passed along. You don't even have to believe in like past lives or anything like that, but actually the complete innocence to how children become conditioned by their families. Makes sense to me. But yeah, like you say, the possibility of mental health that's always there.
when I said I was a leader of a mental health facility, I think I ought to explain that my husband and I, 8 years ago, founded a new way for residential care for very, very sick people, people with cognitive disabilities and had very behavioural problems and criminals and sentences and things like that. And we founded that 8 years ago with just one person in our own home, and now we have 150 staff, and we have homes all over Denmark. And we have incorporated the 3 principles in that, and we have extremely good results. So I'm saying this for anybody that there is hope, especially for parents of adults who have been through the system and have awful experiences, that they can again have relationships with their children. And that's just to tell you that this is there is hope for people out there when you have this. When you build an organisation on the 3 principles philosophy, people call it that. I didn't want anyone to think that for help in an ordinary mental health institution. No, we don't do that at all.
Yeah, I think that deserves a very big round of applause.
Hi, my name is Stefan. I'm going to tell you a short one about me, because I like my story. 2015, I was, what you say in English, smashing the wall, and I say it was because I worked too much, but now I understand it wasn't the problem. And it was divorce, I don't see my children every day, and I work a lot, and the business don't work like I want. 2018, I met my friend Thomas, and he said, you want to lunch with me? And I said, okay, because he was my customer before. So I said, yeah, maybe he would have to do some business. So we take lunch, and then after 1 hour, I understand that he must have taken some drugs, because he was so strange. And I went home, and I don't think so much about what he said. And 1 year later, I was so ill in my brain. I was just sitting looking in the wall 4 hours, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I remember what he said 1 year ago. And so I called him and said, this proposal he gave me, is it possible we can have a meeting? And he said, yes, I come to you, we take a walk. And I just want to tell you about this walk, because it's changed my life. So I was so ill, I don't take my life because I have children, so I don't just think about it 1 second, and of course not. So when I walked with Thomas, it was autumn, and it was a brown leaf, and we were walking, and I see this brown leaf, and I said, dead, dead, dead. I want a green life, I love it. The brown for me is dead. And just when I think that, Thomas said, oh, it's so beautiful. And I said, what? And you see, we say the same, but we feel different about it. And that was the biggest thing for me. After that, so much thing was changed. And now we have walked every week in 4 years. The new Stefan.
I have a question to Vicki, Jason, to anyone actually. How do you continue to see and experience the mental health and the people that you love and are close to you when they are clearly suffering? And just briefly to share, I have a 19-year-old daughter who has severe social anxiety to the extent that she finds it really difficult to speak, and certainly to anyone that she doesn't know. She's incredibly brave. She's did a first year at university. She's now on a break. she's taken a temporary withdrawal. I have absolute sense of what you're speaking to in her, and I felt it myself. I know it's there, and still there are moments when I see her suffer that it's deeply, deeply difficult to be with it. And I'd love any sharing or any insights on how do you continue that journey, how do you continue to have faith that she will connect to that mental health that's within her. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge how hard that is to see people that we love suffering. Something that I heard recently, which really helped me, was let people have the experience they're having. And there was something really touched me in that, because it spoke to the idea, the knowing in me that everything's as it should be. And if that's true, then where they're at is exactly where they need to be at for their journey. And our attempting to interfere, if you like, with that is taking something away from them that maybe is meant for them. And how I know that's really hard. I've got 2 kids myself, so I get how hard that is. And I guess for me, the more I look at, for me, knowing that I'm okay, whatever, the more I see that in other people. So it always brings me back to the only thing I ever need to do is to look at the truth for me and to know more and more deeply who I really am, because that's who they really are too. And it seems kind of passive, but I've really seen that that's how change happens, is we change the world by changing ourselves. We change those around us by us knowing deeply the truth of what and who we are.
I've got something. Thank you for sharing that. Very difficult to share, I understand. I get a lot of people come to me about their children with addiction. It's often my work. And the work always ends up being with a parent and not with a child. You know, the person wants to send their child to me for help child, meaning teenager or 20-something, you know, to get help with addiction, but the work always ends up being with a parent, you know, just like to point to what Vicki was saying, like, how do I be with myself when somebody I really love is suffering? What is it in me? You know, what is it I don't see in them? You know, and it's this is not dismissing how challenging or how difficult or how painful it is. You know, it's really about there's more to see for you from this beautiful person that you witness, you know, that you love dearly, that's challenging to be with when they're struggling. You know, what is that for me to see in me? Because all experiences happening inside of us. Sometimes it looks different to us, especially when somebody's very close. You know, it really challenges and pushes those boundaries of what we see about experiencing happening inside of us. You know. Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for being present, for listening.